When I go out and speak, I usually do a teaching about the approximately 100-year history between the Jewish community in the first century, between the disciples of Jesus and the Pharisees, Sadducees, etc. And I give them the timeline that it's roughly between 30 and 135 AD, where this 100-plus year issue is worked out. It starts approximately in the year 30 with the crucifixion of Jesus. And of course, the majority of the religious leaders at his time rejected Jesus as the Messiah. But there's evidence that a lot of the people at large, the peasants, etc., were followers of Jesus and accepted his message. About 20 years later, it was really the followers of Jesus, the Notzarim, the Nazarenes, followers of the Way, who actually put the first theological volley into print, and that was with the Council of Jerusalem in Acts 15, where James, the half-brother of Jesus, and Peter and Paul get together, and they debate what are going to be the requirements of Gentiles now coming into the faith. And they put out the non-requirement of physical circumcision. That was a monster division for the Pharisaical and Sadducean Jews. And of course, Paul goes on to deal with that issue in the book of Galatians, and saying that circumcision is of the heart and not of the skin. We skip ahead about another 18, 19 years, and we have a very interesting thing, which the vast majority of Christendom has never heard of, but this is with the issue of Rabbi Zakkai, where he is he's in Jerusalem, and the siege is going on by the Romans to take over Jerusalem and to destroy the temple. And his followers decide to try to smuggle him out of Jerusalem in a coffin, because the Romans would at least let them go bury their leader, per se. Well, he's able to get out of Jerusalem, and they catch him and his group somewhere in the outskirts of Jerusalem. But Rabbi Zakkai makes a request to say, "I'd like to come before the General Vespasian." And they said, "Okay, sure." And he comes before the General Vespasian and says, "Look, I want to make a deal. Number one, you know I'm a pacifist, and I didn't want to have this war. And number two, I got great news for you. You're actually going to become Caesar." Now, there's no evidence of how he would have known that. Maybe it was wishful thinking, but for whatever reason, Vespasian is very happy to hear, "You're a pacifist, plus I'm going to become Caesar. Sure, you can go to the place of your choice," and that would be up in Yavne, northwestern Israel, on the Mediterranean Ocean, and you can have your yeshiva, your Jewish school of learning. We'll leave you alone. Such a deal. And so that's essentially that story, because within a year, year and a half, the temple's destroyed. The Romans breach the walls of Jerusalem and take it over and destroy everything. Right around that time is when there's this curse that's introduced. The curse, I call it, of the Notzarim, or the followers of the Nazarene, or Yeshua Jesus. And they said, "Hey, if you're a disciple of him, you really can't be a Jew because you ran away from the Roman destruction." Well, the disciples were just doing what Jesus had told them. Hey, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, get out. It's God's plan, it's God's will. So that really caused another major stake in the ground against the believers and followers of Jesus. Approximately 50 years later, 132 to 135, there's this prominent rabbi named Rabbi Akiva, and he wanted to consolidate and continue Israel, and he had a lot of, patriotic aspirations, and he decided to crown or endorse a very prominent soldier at the time, Simon Bar Kokhba, and he changed his name to Kokhba, and which is the prince. And so he put his mantle of approval on him. So you got church and state, or church and military combined, and they had a 3-year revolt, and for 2.5 years it went very well. Well, then finally they were overtaken by the Romans. But what's interesting was that was the final stake in the coffin against the followers of Jesus, because when Rabbi Akiva told them, you are now going to swear allegiance to that this guy is the Messiah, of course they said, we can't do that. He didn't fulfill any of the prophecies. He didn't die on the cross. There's no chance. So they were deserters. They deserted when the temple was being destroyed in the minds of the Pharisaical Jews, and now, to add insult to injury, 50 years later, they've done it again. So that's really the summation of the 100-year family feud of Jesus being the Messiah and what it meant to be a Jew, and the reconstitution of Judaism.